Hi, Wenjing.
Hello.
Hello, how are
Hey,
you?
good.
Where in the world are you, Wenjing?
I'm in the Bay Area.
Oh, you are. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so, close to San Jose.
Yes, yeah, I was there not so long ago.
Yeah. Where are you located?
I'm in Sydney.
Oh, so this is
It's
kind
4 in the
of a
morning.
bad hour.
4 a.m. Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's commitment, I gotta say.
yeah.
You guys are the ones I want to talk to. So I was thinking there are many advantages to living in Australia, but time zone is not one of them.
How's the drought down there this summer? Is it let up at
Well,
all?
we had a very bad bushfire year immediately before COVID. Um, and we've had a few years, 3 years, 4 years since without bad bushfires, and we seem to be back into a bad bushfire season again. Um, yeah, it's part of our world.
And more becoming part of ours, yes.
Well, yeah, actually, when the California fires were on, I did this double take last year where I suddenly realized it was in wintertime. And maybe the dry in winter.
No, normally it's that was very odd time for a fire. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. Normally not
yeah,
that dry.
because
Dry
your
in,
fires,
but it's always dry in LA.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, normally it does tend to happen towards the end of the summers.
yeah, okay.
In particular for the bad Canadian fires that have been happening, and they've been blowing down smoke into the New York area, which is actually where I am. So
Oh, oh,
that's
into
usually
New York.
happen. That usually happens at the
Yeah,
end of the summer. So you're right.
yeah.
No, I would say Canadian basically starts on April 1st and goes to November 1st. No, that's about it. Trust me, as somebody who lives in Ottawa, yeah, we get all the smoke. You can tell what's burning this week by what the smell is.
Yes. Yeah.
But it does
We're
it does it
still
does
we're,
tend to peak towards the end of the summers, though.
I, to some extent, but in some cases we've had very little snowpack, so it starts off dry, so there's not a lot of so snowpack counts for a lot of the
Yeah, I
moisture that a
figured
lot of
that
the
would be the
forests get.
main. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure this conversation is in the agenda.
Anyway.
It's
Whatever.
recorded.
So one thing I just got off a phone with there's an organization IRI put them in not the same as Drummond Reed and uh,
Oh, so what are the
other folks.
difference?
Anyway, it's an AI platform. And I got about a half hour demo from them. I'll throw in some screenshots at some point, but they have a very interesting orchestration and shall we say synchronization mechanism for agents, including putting auditing and redaction and replacement on messaging between agents. So they sit in the pipe and watch what's going back and forth, and they can put on filters in terms of stripping out PII or flagging. Okay, wait a minute, there's information going back and forth here that is not expected. I just thought they had a pretty good story on this, on stuff we're only starting to wade into. I think they've certainly thought this through. They've literally got governance components you can snap in terms of guardrails and rules. I think it'd be worth just getting a demo of what these guys are. I'm getting the particulars of the person that gave me a demo. He was out of Georgia. I think it'd be well worth a half an hour of our time in say a week or two. Does that sound reasonable, Wendy?
Sounds good. And I put that in the news to share area. So this is the link. Maybe you can help as the
What I'll do is
contact
I'll grab
person
some
to organize
screenshots that I
that.
got from. Yeah, so I'm gonna grab some screenshots and drop them into that today's
Exactly. Exactly.
so you
So let
could have a
me
look.
just
So this is a service more than just like Python you drop into your workflow. Is it open source?
This is this well, no, it's not open source. It's commercial, but it's an entire platform for agent coordination. But what they're doing was interesting in terms of something they do have commercially available. It's just they popped up in terms of was just looking at who was paying attention to AI and agents and MCP, et cetera, with regards to data privacy, and they were one of the what they came up with was better than I was seeing from a lot of folks. So I said, hey, can I get a show and tell? And I think it's worth our time to understand what they're up to. So
Hey, just one other thing I wanted to mention that I put into the resources little block there are two projects owned by the Linux Foundation that I think are relevant to us because, we work closely with the Linux Foundation and spawn from them. So you might want to check those two out. One is like a very new thing and it's promoting like an open AI agent and working on communication
But what do
protocol.
you mean by
And the
resource
other
area?
one okay, if you remember how I said in that spreadsheet you had up last week that you should have a
Oh,
resource column.
oh,
So
oh,
I
of
put
course,
the
of
I
course.
put the links to those projects over there. So check those out and they'll be relevant to us at some point.
Okay. Well, let me catch up so that we do the antitrust and the trust of IP's PR policy for this working group. I think you guys all are veterans here, so that's that. And we are currently at the sharing the news time. So continue, please. Let me click on this, see. I keep getting this. Here you go. Resource area. Yeah, so we know Nanda and the other project AIF. Yes, of course. Yeah. Very good.
Okay,
Okay, let
great.
me come back to the agenda. Anything else to share? So, I guess, Neil, you have an action item to,
yeah.
yeah, so organize some, I think those are good to have. So we don't, like you said, good to learn how others are thinking.
Yeah, and
On
they also I also so they said they get a tech person because this was obviously a marketing and sales guy I talked to, but he was pretty knowledgeable. But they'll arrange to get a tech person for Q&A. So
Excellent. Okay. Um, so the rest of the things are on the Discord channel. Um, uh, relate to LMs.text and agent MD, and maybe somewhat relate to that is also the agent card. So these are essentially to tell who or give the agent information or the tell what the agent is about. So those are also very interesting. Um, I shared a link to a newsletter by Project Liberty. We've looked at them before, but this one is about the term of use for chatbots, and so they look into what we agreed to when you use the chatbot, and it's also I think it's very interesting to read through and maybe check out the term of use itself yourself. Anyway, I thought that's a good link. Comfort.2 is a design of a privacy preserving agent. So this is a scheme of how to keep the context or the conversation you had with the agent to yourself. So you hold a key and some design behind it how this works. I think that's also very valuable. I haven't looked quite deep into it yet, but this would be interesting. This is from the same person who designed the signal. So it will be similar kind of idea there. So those are the links. Anybody have others to share or want to dive deep into any of these topics? No? Okay. So the rest on the agenda just is I thought we'll have a regular one for the active work items to sort of provide an update. Um, if there's any progress, any news, anything need help, etc. Um, and then we will resume on that discussion on the spreadsheet, the other plans and priorities for the second half. Any comments on the agenda itself before going into that? Okay, it's been quiet today. So I guess the one that I'm working on is AI agent protocol over TSP. I'm rethinking this name as well. Um, and probably the current plan is to start with the documentation. Gosh. So start with documentation or the drafting of it maybe next week, and we go weekly. I would assume that maybe in a month or so we could have a draft. Um, and uh, you know, maybe we could take some time of this meeting, just go over the draft section by section as we come along. So the basic table of contest that I have in mind is something like this. So it will be a abstract, probably terms of definitions, and a motivation. Motivation, am I right? Okay, so this is just what problem we're solving, etc. And then um, the framework itself. Um, and I'm thinking maybe um, a little talk about the transport and then IDs. I don't know the terms quite yet, but ID and wallets. Uh, that's pretty much it. I think that covers most of the things. And then I don't know. The rest are like um, analysis or maybe some kind of security and privacy considerations. So those will be discussions.
If I was to add something in terms of, I think at this point, certainly a lot of the discussions I'm seeing in other groups, including over at DIF, is trying to leverage the MCP, the protocols that come with MCP, which are about it's almost like a trust registry kind of approach in the sense that you're gathering endpoints of uh, systems that APIs, et cetera, that you can plug into. Um, but I think what would also be useful is, okay, so if you're doing discovery and then you're finding the various MCP servers and you're finding the endpoints, what's the transition between doing MCP messaging to snapping in and saying, okay, now that I've got the agent on that I want to talk to, I want to snap in and transition over to using agent protocol using TSP as
Yeah, that will be
choice.
out of scope because those are related to MCP. How MCP uses it is it's kind of out of scope. Um, in this specification, this specification essentially says if you are designing an agent protocol or you have an agent protocol, how would you leverage TSP? It's not trying
Yeah,
to give
I just
a overall solution. You could implement it entirely badly, but that is out of scope.
that's fair, but I just suspect that's a question that people are going to be asked is how do we start with MCP and then transition? So,
Yeah, yeah. The transition is what the framework will talk about. So this section, right now I'm simply trying to make sure there's a table content look correct. Then, like for example, if we go week by week, providing these sections, that would take us, let's say 7 weeks to finish. About right, about right. So in any case, this is basically saying, hey, how do we, assuming, I think say, set aside the problem of the actual content itself, whether this structure looks good for the specification, as cover people concerned about. What we could do, like you were saying, is give examples. Because earlier we have two approaches we could take, right? One is simply say, I'm going to tell you how to do it in MCP. Then we can go to a lot of detail. And then I think the questions you raised would be exactly right. So that's the one type of specification we could do. And I heard over several meetings that people will much prefer a more abstract one. It's high level, say here's how you're gonna do about it. But we could combine the two by giving examples or giving a section, say for MCP specifically, these are the
mhm.
issues and how we recommend to solve it. Would that be
Yeah,
a
because yeah, and one of the things I think that it brings to the table is now you're bringing in full-blown ability to do SSI-based trust and all the mechanisms that are inherent in using a
yeah.
DID SSI specific protocol, because that I'm seeing that not being talked a whole lot about yet. Everybody's, oh, let's plug all these agents together. Okay, so I've got some AI agent out of Tajikistan. How do I know to trust it? Right.
Can I
So
get a,
with the
could you drop a link in the chat? Because this is hard to copy and I'm trying to
oh
page
oh
directly. Yeah.
you mean this link?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah, of course. The chat. Yeah. Um,
Changing.
so
I'm all for keeping away from scope creep. So I think doing abstract at first, getting that packaged and pushed out there, and then a follow on if there's interest. If there's enough traction and people looking at that document, then go into the details and maybe source code or a workshop even if you want to actually how to see it work. But I think it's so new to so many people that we have to explain the problem we're solving more than actually the solution right now.
okay. Um, yeah, so that's why this section specifically, um, we actually have this, I actually have this document somewhere already. The question then is if we can leave it as appendix here, or we can simply write a separate document for it. That doesn't really make any difference. So I could simply say, here is, I want to get into detailed discussions of MCP itself. It will become APIs and code, will look like that. And then how that runs over TSP. So we could make that a separate document. So let me see.
That
So
would be my suggestion because it'll take us much longer to get the top bullets out if we add in anything like so
adding more to it, right?
right
Yeah.
bullets.
So this section is a traditional protocol section, but I think Neil, you mentioned about how do we evaluate trust? Maybe that's a better kind of a
Well, as a specific item in terms of agent to agent, yeah, I think that's something that I haven't heard talked about. Is that it's talked about, but it's like no one, yeah, trust someone else will deal with it. we've already got the mechanisms to do that. So, you know,
Right.
I think it's reasonable to say how does that how do you bring trust over IP governance about trust into the MCP discussion? I think is the opportunity here.
Okay. Where structurally, where would you like to put it there? In the very beginning or in, yeah, I guess.
I think I go along with Stephen's
Framework.
call. It's a separate topic. First, let's talk about the framework, and then how does it work, and as a second item. So I think
Okay.
talking about it, in terms of the ability to use the protocol to work with agent to agent communication as concept, and then talk about some specifics. That
Yeah.
sounds
What's the best way to frame it? Rather than
well. I mean,
eh, eh,
it's interagent trust. How do you establish that?
interagent. Well, we may not be running inter-agent, right? Like most of the MCP are not inter-agent. Maki,
Well,
you have
whatever.
hands.
So
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
apologies. I joined a bit late. I was just running from the C2PA meeting. So, I think it will be really good to define the core issues and problems we're trying to solve as a starting point. So, the objectives basically that will come as a next step, and then I think the rest will be much clearer. So, I think also the motivations like itself could be the first pointer before um, the abstract. So I think, like what's the problem statement? And then after that, we can define the objectives. And post that, we can get deeper into the protocols.
Yeah. Yeah, so essentially all these are the motive this section is to set up the problems we want to solve. Um, and this is the
I want
overview
to
of the solution, and then we get into the detail. The next three are the details, and the
now,
final
can I
ones are
ask about a little bit about MCP versus A2A? So MCP is primarily a discovery protocol. So you're discovering tools and asset resources your agent can use. Whereas A to A is actually more about the communication on an ongoing basis between agents and how they do that. So why are we covering MCP and not A to A?
you keep saying not, we are not covering A to A. This is just a question of remember this was appendixes of examples. So if you get around it, you can do this over and over. Um, we're just always using MCP as a first example. So think of it that way. When
Oh
we
yeah,
mention
yeah, right. Okay,
MCP,
right.
we're
Okay.
saying one out of many examples. The first one being MCP.
Yeah, I'm being daft. Sorry about that.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're not saying that's the only thing. Okay, and that's one of the reason we separate these from the spec itself, right? So the spec itself make it very generic, and we could then pick any one of these protocol and then dive into more details related to that protocol that each one of them have. So we are assuming that we cannot, dramatically change that protocol. Um, And so those are definitely worth the follow up, or we may want to do at least one initially, because otherwise it's all abstract. We needed something concrete, and so we picked MCP as one, A2A as a very quick next. Um, it all these so there's a code examples we have for MCP now. For A2A, there's a little bit of work that we will be able to produce some code example as well. And so that's where they are. I need a better term to say what this, but if worst comes to worst, this is basically what kind of trust related questions it will answer. Right? It's essentially say, hey, with this, what kind of thing you can say about, what kind of statement you can say about, or if we query something, what is the answer it's going to get, something like that. But this is probably, I would say the meat will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that will be the main part of the spec. And these will be open-ended discussions and then some abstract, some term definitions, etc. And I'm trying to narrow it down to something, as simple as possible, so we don't get into too much of other stuff, and then maybe leave the details to these documents. Maybe that's the
Now, when you're
yeah.
talking about the trust layer, you're only talking about uh, the things that trust acts on, not the actual process of calculating trust, like a Bayesian method or something like that, where you would internally derive a trust score. We're talking more about just what are the objects that are going to be trusted and manipulated, correct?
Yeah, and this section, as I think if I understood Neil correctly, is to talk about at least the second part of how do you evaluate trust. Okay, so you may not specify a standard, but you need to say, well, explain to me how this information going to help me, and we'll do some explanation of how this may help you.
Yeah, okay. So create
Without saying
essentially
you
a
must
use
do this.
case
Yeah.
without specifying it. I got it. The broad use case.
Right,
Got it.
right, right. It's in a way of explaining, maybe in a, outside, explaining how this solution works. I think that's what this section would basically become to is maybe, I don't know, give an example or, like for instance, if you want to verify the identity, what do you need to run? If you want to do a, credential exchange, what do you need to run? But we could go into say, here's how do you do credential exchange. And then this is again, the choices we have to do. If you specify it, then it's really simple, but then it's you are picking one answer to many possible answers. That's what a standard is
Yeah,
for, is you pick
just
one.
just to give a quick example, that came up in the demo that I just saw. And one of the things they say is here are the agents that we've basically done the due diligence on that we're willing to expose in their enterprise platform as saying we trust these agents, right? So they've gone through some due diligence. We didn't get into the details, but I mean, Trust RVP's got a specific mechanism. It's first you're going to prove you own your did, then you're going to walk through that, and then you're going to exchange some credentials that have been signed by somebody else to say that you're a trusted party. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, so that two-step, for example, is relatively easy. You verify the identity and then you check some credentials. So, but that's only two. You could have more, right? Yeah, so we could, and there's a question of do we, kind of define all of them, say here's required versus say, I don't know. These are many options you can choose from.
Yep.
All right. But we're not going to do anything like describe registries uh, or systems where, for example, everybody puts in their vote for uh, a rating on an agent, and then those are, maybe you take the median of those votes as the reported rating or whatever
Oh,
else, like
no, no. What I'm
nothing
suggesting,
that's. All right, I think that is too far out of scope. So I'm just saying we shouldn't do that.
yeah, yeah. So that's the line we have to draw on. is we are saying here is a new method, a new approach or new methodology. So these are the building blocks you could build. And what you are, describing is one possible way you could go down on this route using this stack, right? And we're not trying to force everybody into the same way of doing that. But that's again, we have to draw a line somewhere. And I think we want this to be generally usable framework rather than a particular solution. So that naturally limits our scope. So we could, do a reasonable good job and also makes the solution broadly accessible. It doesn't force you to do something. It's a balance act. Because if you leave too much freedom, then it becomes, diluted very quickly. So there's some portion we do have to specify, especially if it doesn't, really limit the application space. I think we should specify and make it everybody simpler. So that's what this document is doing, is to make those balanced choices. And I guess we will debate, each point we are making those choices. That sound like a good option, then we hopefully can looks like, 7, 8 of them here. It will take a while, but if we go, if we do well, this can go move forward quickly. I'm planning to at least have the draft move forward quickly.
Sounds good. Got to have it move forward quickly.
Exactly, because otherwise, we are going to be very quickly talking about yesterday's problem.
Yeah, that's
Let's
what I'm
move
trying to do with
fast.
my taxonomy for agent systems, try and get it out
Uh, you
before
can do that
someone else
forever.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so thank you. This we have a kind of rough shape, and so like I said, our week by week trying to um, move this forward. So hopefully this shouldn't take too long. Shall we move to the this table again, and then I don't know any of other lead persons around, but. Thank you. So I think we have a reasonable good Steve for the two. I know Nanda very well, and I also know AIF, of course, and then agency. I guess what would you suggest? Like we could, for instance, let me go back. Let me. How do I? Gosh, I lost my Windows Edge. Here you go. Okay. So, my current thinking is that I can do I can do basically follow this along. Nanda agent is like that. I don't know this. I know it's spelled a little weird, but basically go down this route. And each one of them may not be very long, but something we could go talk to them, tell them about our work, learn from them, etc. Would that be a good approach?
Well, like I say,
Just
I can handle the Nanda part of it. I'm going to be going to their meeting tomorrow, so
very good, very
and
good.
I go weekly to talk with whoever I can. But and we have a New York City chapter which meets in person occasionally. But and MIT, where it's sort of centered, isn't too far from me either. So I've been up to that conference before. So
Absolutely.
I'm trying to get them to broaden their registry to use these other things besides agents, which I think need to be verified alongside of it. So that's kind of my main focus with them is that you not need to only need to register agents, but the workflows that they're in, you know, the compilations into bots, the workspaces that they're in. There's a lot of different resources which should all be in an agent registry. So
Right, right. And this also really comes down to like because we want to get feedback if a protocol like this would be helpful for them, right? And they are in a I keep using the word application, but they are in a more vertical solution space. They need to solve, have answers to all those questions. We are trying to be a building block to that. Okay, so um, for the rest of the proposals here, how do we want to
one
approach
thing
it?
with regards to Nanda that we could do specifically is
Um,
have compliance with whatever protocol we have be highlighted in their registry so that any agents that are willing to communicate in compliance with our protocols, that's highlighted and discoverable within their registries.
yeah,
So,
if they buy into, then this will become a
yeah,
factor in
they'll
their
buy into
register.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, excellent idea.
The main guy there, Ramesh, he's super smart. He
Yeah.
barely ever, doesn't get things immediately. As far as the other two, I just discovered those. You were already aware of them, and I just was making sure you were aware of. I have no contact,
Absolutely.
or I mean, I possibly could take on that responsibility in time, but we'll just leave it open for now, unless somebody else
Yeah,
wants.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So let me move forward. What do we do with rest of the um, agendas?
So you're now
We
we're
don't
talking
have.
three here. As I mentioned here, I already have a white paper in this area, which I've been working on, taxonomy for agent systems. It's been my primary
Yeah.
focus for about the last 3 months. So, yeah, I can put a link to that right here. Now, one thing I was unable to do was actually embed the links when I was trying to edit this, and I didn't want to put a huge, ugly, URL on there.
Oh,
For some reason,
oh,
I think because I wasn't using Chrome, maybe it wouldn't let me do it. So I'm going to try and do it again in Chrome and see if I can
okay.
embed a
Okay.
link.
I think I have the highest permission for
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
document.
You can
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah,
edit
yeah.
stuff. I just can't embed links and make them,
Oh,
the
I saw. Let me see.
that's why.
This link it has a a line in it. I don't know what that mean. Yeah, you see this? I don't know that pop-up window.
Public on
Huh.
the when. I don't see what are you saying? It's public
Oh,
on the web.
oh, these are just editing buttons. Sorry, yeah, ignore it, ignore it.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
I'm
All right.
reading wrong.
All right. So at some point, I'd like to present that paper to the group and go over the primary points I'm trying to make and see what you think of the approach, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
So I can put a link
yeah.
to my current edit in the chat
Mm,
and eventually into this when I get the linking right.
mm. What the rest of the what we could do for the rest of the proposals is depending on the whether the or the lead person are on the call, we could week by week go over review them. So I think the two that I originally proposed, one is data management to behavior, second is AI for trust. So these two I'm very much interested in trust relationships. So this is the again relate to the earlier comment. Once we have these things set up, then how do we actually evaluate trust, right? And that's we say it's orthogonal to the particular protocol itself, but it's very interesting. So all of these are essentially going beyond the protocol, but into um, the system. How do we then, what kind of the methods we may have to apply to maintain or manage trust relationship?
So, Wangjing, for the trust relationships, we have some overlap with Drummond's decentralized trust graph working group because they talk
Yes.
about it too. So maybe a joint effort, give Drummond a bit of a break, and we get others to help too.
Yeah. Again,
But for high level, not necessarily that we're trying to pitch, decentralized trust graph or first person project. Just again, very high level.
exactly. And there was if you recall, exchange between Drummond and myself of we will present to them, you know, somewhat regularly, and they can present to us what they're working on and which direction they're going. So that can be an ongoing conversation. Because we would need to, like we say, if we take the two simple steps, right? One is establish identity. Second is, exchange some credentials. And in the BTG, they exchange a particular type of credentials, and then they create a graph. And then presumably you can run some algorithm on that graph to say, do I trust or not? Something like that, right? And so that
Yeah,
would be
he also
one.
has, I don't know how many variations of trust credentials out there. So
Precisely. And so
getting
they have a very,
complicated before it starts.
they're trying to very specifically target a type of credential. And so if we want to collaborate, we could be focused on more general purpose ones and versus, first person. That
I
could
see.
be one way that we will resolve this overlap.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say this piece of work, maybe that's really related to maybe the like a five, six, seven are very closely related anyway. And if they're related, then we basically have two, maybe three main threads we can push forward to. Hopefully we get a relatively quick win on this, and then we can spend time on the trust relationship piece. 'Cause that would be that can rely on the first piece as it linked to, real protocols.
Yep. Still plenty of work in those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are people going to still put their names in the column to indicate they want to work in certain groups?
Please do. At the moment,
Why
they're
don't you,
all,
does everybody have the link to the sheet here? Let's see, I think you put it in. That's just the Atlassian.
Yeah. Please do. At the moment, this is really just an indication. Because if we don't have anyone really interested and going to put a lot of effort into it, we may just put on that back burner. We have enough work to keep us busy for now. But I think that's just an indication to encourage we coalesce around some big themes that we can jointly working
Can we
on.
discuss number 5? It's just this ongoing discussion is linked, but I haven't
Oh
looked.
yeah,
Um,
this one we had a discussion a while ago. Let me see.
Sounds
Uh,
interesting.
This is the so this let me summarize, right? This is to say that in AI agents, the hardest, well, at least one of the hardest problem um, is for because AI, most of AI agents are trained to be useful, or they are basically following your prompts. They're trying to make you happy, and therefore there is a for security and other issues, there's a fundamental weakness. Anything said to the agent is going to follow, which is dangerous. And if the agent is also very powerful, then you can manipulate the agent to do really bad stuff, right? And this is a very hard problem because it doesn't care about your security protocols or whatever. It is following those text instructions. And so as long as the attacker can figure out a way to put this information into the prompt stream, it becomes instruction. So in a way, those prompts are programs, and you are programming now, and you allow, numerous ways this program can be issued to the agent. And then agent can write very sophisticated real programs to go do stuff. So that's the fundamental problem. And I've been talking about this for 2 years now, that we keep focusing on data management, like, encryptions, even IDs, credentials are all about managing piece of data. But at the end of the day, um, the agent follows those prompts, and that's a huge weakness. The agent we will need it to sort of manage the behavior. That goes into how do you train it, for example, but also in context ways, and also so-called guardrails, right? Usually the people separate the two, alignment versus guardrails. So think of like guardrails is external constraints, right? You are saying, I'm going to build a fence here. Like, so you cannot go beyond this, and this is a baseline security in some way. While alignment is trying to train the agent in a way, the model in a way that it would be able to, smart enough to tell something's fishing here, that it need to behave differently. So the term I've chosen, and this is to say we need to move beyond just data management to behavior management, which get a lot deeper into controlling the agents, or controlling how the LM would act in the application environment. And that's the basic point. And then we can try to break down into, I think this is a bunch of early information. We had maybe one or two discussions in the past, but there are a lot of points being raised, critiques, etc. So this is the one of the thread that I very much want to move forward to.
All right. I'm definitely interested in that. It's a subject I have thought about extensively over the past couple of years.
Exactly.
And I also
Exactly.
actually have this Google paper which just came out, which is relevant, which I will put
There
into
are
the chat.
many. If you could, I think I have the same.
I will put it It's called distributional AI. It came out sometime in December.
Because initially we will be, surveying something, right? So if you have a good link to the papers, please add it here. Then we can schedule a section um, in the meetings to go over them. So you know, yeah. So this is a very, very, I think, fundamental topic, because at the end of the day, all the rest are tools to solve this problem. In the end, this is the problem to solve, I think. All the rest are simply building blocks to solve this problem. So that's number 5. We talk about a little bit of this as well. I think this will become a subsection of it. Um, yeah, especially we get into evaluation and all of that. I think that like we talk about in number 5, in a way, it is the same question of how do you evaluate? So now it's AI evaluating um, the threat rather than we analyze it and then design some software to do it, right? And two are quite different. And I think um, so what do you guys think? Is that are we on good, direction on track? Is that something we want to spend our Thursday morning, Thursday working on?
Yep. So, Jermaine,
Quite a bit.
I mean, one of the questions that comes up in terms of data filtering is you almost need a series of agents in a stack. All right. So you got something managing your personal information and transactions with other parties that is in your wallet. So you have full access to all that information. And in terms of what to filter, you almost need your own specialized agent, or it could be someone else's agent sitting in your sandbox that has full access to your personal data for a specific purpose, right? So
Right,
there's governance saying you're allowed to use this information. Some modicum of, it's not a single solution, and maybe you've got specific. I mean, for example, one of the things we tripped across in looking at the hospitality and travel profile is
yeah,
you probably want to really have your full medical records on your smartphone, because you get into an accident in a third world country, somebody needs to get access to your medical and medication records, they need it right now, right? But that's
right,
not information you're going to disclose. What you will disclose is, for a condition I'm not going to tell you about, I need a wheelchair. So that gets advertised out to travel services as saying, I need a wheelchair and wheelchair related services. I'm not going to tell you that I have some degenerative spine disease. You don't need to know that, right? So that's a concept of layering what you, in other words, you publish your needs, you don't publish your condition,
right.
right? But if
Actually, I just read
but if it's
yeah, I came across a paper from uh, I think Google about rephrasing. So they try the AI agent to essentially one is a medical specialist agent, and one is a like you were suggesting, a personal agent helping you. The personal agent will rephrase this your prompt, your question, in by removing your personal identifiable information. So it's going to make a generic patient with these symptoms and then ask the questions or something like that. Um,
Yeah. So certainly one of the things that has come up in conversation from the hospitality and travel industry is you would invite agents from every travel segment, airlines, train travel, mountain climbing, skiing, whatever, and say, have a look at my medical records and tell me things I should be telling travel service for ski holiday what they need to
yeah,
know, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Um, and the very differently, the earlier, like I mentioned, Comfort.2, what they did was have so you hold a key, and then the conversation was encrypted. So to reopen, to if you come back next time to reopen the conversation, you will need to in a way decrypt, provide the key to decrypt it and allow that conversation to resume. So the context is encrypted by yourself. That's what I think they are doing. And just many examples we can look into the different approaches people thinking through these problems. So for these less well organized uh, challenges, I think we generally would probably take a survey first, and so that way we have time to actually take a look at how other people are dealing with it, what are and then maybe come back to a more organized effort of deliver something. And if in your work and in area that it really interests you, if there's a priority you want to really cover, please feel free to enter in probably in this sheet. So that's this is trying to define the focus area and the priority, right? Um, that way, what really most important to you are covered here. I'm also working on code, so if any of you are also developers, feel free to join on those efforts as well. I feel much more concrete when we can actually put some idea into some, at least some prototype that is linked to commonly used software.
Sounds good.
Sounds good? All
Yep.
right. I guess next meeting, so we have a rough plan, and maybe next meeting we're starting to get into regular cadence of reviewing, updating, um, and then at the same time refining some of these new topics so that we can define. Let me see. So, Steve, you put another link here. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
sure.
this is my giant original
Oh, that's your okay.
handwritten paper about digital twins. I was just popping it over to Joe if he wants to take a look at it. But this is my vision for the externally facing half of personal AI. So
Beautiful.
there's an
Okay.
internally facing digital twin, which is separated from a firewall from the externally facing digital agent, just so that your most private data is protected from the prompt injection you were just talking about, because your virtual
Exactly.
agent never even talks to the outside world.
That's right. Well, the a lot of the issues are not only the person talking to it, but the agent need to go search stuff, and that's another source of that injection coming in is from those searches.
Exactly. That's why you let your personal external twin do all the searches, all the interactions. Then it passes through a deterministic layer to determine what gets passed to the virtual assistant. So
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. And that again, when we talk about TSP, we're talking about those use cases, and that's where TSP gets used, and it will make the determination, a lot easier to do. And I think that's what all these value or building blocks come together. So, excellent. All right, folks. Well, you have your reading assignment, and we will see you in a week.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
All right.
Virgin.
Joe,
Thank
you
you.
have my email in the paper. Just send me an
Thank you.
email and I'll.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All
Tim.
right.
Thank you.
Mhm.